About a week ago, the director of Days Gone came out and said that woke reviewers couldn't handle the content in the title and they tanked its score without even trying it. And of course, Bend Studios has decided not to defend the guy who directed their game, but to throw him under the bus to the journalists, saying he's wrong and no one agrees with him. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So I did talk about the initial situation a few days ago in a different video, but I thought that we could recap the situation. This article says Days Gone wasn't a hit because reviewers were too woke, the director claims. Now, these claims didn't come out of nowhere. He used direct quotes that journalists made in their articles when this title initially released. Upon its release, Days Gone was met with middling reviews across the board. In our own review, in which Sony Ben's take on a zombie apocalypse was not awarded a badge, the author described it as a shallow copy of many better open-world action games. Now, yes, when this title did come out, it faced a lot of scrutiny by journalists, and consumers also had problems with it. It did launch, it was a bit buggy, it was a bit broken. Unfortunately, a lot of AAA games do release that way now, but it did have some problems. But looking at the scores now, years after it's come out, fans do really like it now that all of those problems are fixed. It's sitting right around an 8.4 on Metacritic because people, after the fact, after launch, have said, you know what, I've replayed it, it's pretty good, it's a decent experience. It's not perfect, but what game is perfect these days? It says, but according to the Days Gone director, John Garvin, the game itself was not to blame for this tepid reception. Rather, it failed because of a combination of tech issues, reviewers who couldn't be bothered to actually play the game, and woke reviewers who couldn't handle a gruff white biker looking at his date's ass. And yes, of course, tech issues, it did have some, and there were a lot of reviewers who were talking about the game, but they didn't actually review the title, and whenever they were talking about the game, it did seem like they were missing some critical information. But he talks about woke reviewers who couldn't handle a gruff white biker looking at his date's ass, and this is actually a direct quote from a journalist. So as you can see, IGN initially said this when the game launched. While I'll admit that I initially rolled my eyes at yet another gruff white male protagonist in a grim world, I ended up getting far more invested than I'd initially expected. So yeah, they did straight up say this about the game and the protagonist. But now, Bend Studios has decided not to stand by this game director, but to throw him under the bus. So it says Days Gone Studio responds to controversial comments from the game's director. Earlier this week, the creative made headlines when he blamed the game's poor critical reception on woke reviewers. Now, Bend has decided to respond, saying, "We are aware of the comments made by our previous creative director on Days Gone regarding his personal view on the critical reception of our IP." So, straight off the bat, they're trying to distance themselves from him, saying, well, you know, he's the previous creative director. Bend Studios does not share his sentiment, nor does it reflect the views of our team. Our studio is immensely proud of the work we accomplished on Days Gone and are thankful to every developer who poured their heart and soul into it. We are incredibly humbled by the support of our Days Gone community, and we will continue to share your enthusiasm for our world and characters as we look toward the future. Now, we do not know why he's not working with them anymore, but it seems like everybody at this studio was a bit on edge when the game released just because they were expecting it to do a lot better and for it to be praised a lot more, but clearly Bend Studios is probably working on a sequel to the game, and they are worried about it coming out and it facing critical reception because of the comments made by this previous director, so they're trying their very best to distance themselves from him, but the studio literally threw the director under the bus so the very people who tank their game's ratings could attack them even more. Even though the director doesn't work there, he still represents the game and he was still a core creative on the team, and instead of saying it's just how he feels, it's as simple as that, no, they want to distance themselves from him because of course there have been a few journalists who have been mad at his statement saying, wow, he's just out of touch with everything and he just doesn't understand why we gave it bad reviews. The problem is that video game journalists don't understand what makes a game good because they're really just hacks. They couldn't make it in other industries, so they had to come into the gaming and entertainment spaces to hopefully make a name for themselves. And well, a lot of consumers do not agree with their reviews, especially surrounding this game. But if we look at the comment sections, there are some people saying, you know what, great comment, great statement, but there are a lot of people roasting them. People are even saying things like, we've got plenty of proof of them doing this, you just have to look. And it was the same exact statement that I showed that this director did say in his statement. Don't think that Days Gone 2 will ever get made now. I disagree with that. I think that they are probably working on it behind the scenes and they are excited for it, and that's why they're, acknowledging these statements now. But a lot of people are really, really mad at them. Throwing your game director under the bus, that's not very cash money of you. Nah, he was right and the game is awesome, and there were a bunch of haters who went at the game for exactly what he discussed. You all should have just kept quiet on this. Mid-game with a mid-director by a mid-studio, everybody's, entitled to their own opinion. Like I said in my previous video on this topic, I was really turned off by the game because of all of the technical issues when it initially launched, but I am glad that people have found enjoyment in it now. What this studio doesn't understand is that these journos will still attack the sequel if it's anything like the first game, and with this response, they've only given them more ammunition. It's another controversy for them to list off surrounding the first game when the second comes out. I personally think the director was correct when he said woke reviewers hated the game, rated it poorly because it wasn't woke enough, and some didn't even seemingly play it, and in my opinion, this is a massive L for Bend Studios. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.